Hello, and thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to spend with me. This is Joy, and I welcome you to another discussion. Today, I want to talk to you about how the devil gained legal access to the narcissist's soul. This is a question that has been asked over and over again. And for the life of me, I've also wanted to know. But I've been asking God, how did this happen? How did this happen? How did this happen? I want answers. I wanted answers. We all want answers. And so I think this would be a great conversation for us to have so that we can continue to grow, not just in knowledge about what we experience, because never forget, knowledge is power. And we must always seek knowledge. But we must also seek God for his truth about things. And so I hope that we can begin a conversation that we will continue to have over time. Because while I am here having this discussion with you, or, I've got some notes in front of me that I want to be able to pull on so that I don't, forget what I want to say or lose my thought pattern. There's still so much. There are still so many questions that I still have. And I'm sure even after this, many of you will still have questions. And so we'll still have to revisit this conversation. And it'll be great for this to be an ongoing conversation. So when it comes to legal access for spirits in the earth realm, because you have to understand that the earth realm was created for mankind. If we consider God, when he wanted to redeem his people back, he could not just show up in the earth realm. Because he is a respecter of his own creation, he had to follow the pattern that he had set in place. So in order for him to redeem mankind back to him, what he had to do is come into the earth realm through the virgin birth. This is what gave him, or the birth of Jesus Christ, this is what gave him legal access within the earth realm. So when the enemy wants to use his minions, his demons, to commit their acts, their offenses within the earth realm, they cannot do it without gaining legal access to a soul. If a disembodied demon shows up in front of you, you have absolutely nothing to worry about, because it cannot do anything to you except it do something through you. So this is how the enemy needed people to be able to use to commit his acts against the kingdom of God in the earth realm. So he needed that legal access. That is the thing about legal access. Everything God created has order. And so if God is not violating that order, the enemy also cannot, because the earth was created for mankind. Adam was given the instruction on how to take care of the earth, replenish, subdue, dominate. Those were the instructions that Adam was given. Therefore, anything that is not human needs legal access to do something in this earth realm. And so for his agenda to go forward, he needs bodies. And this is where we now introduce this whole concept of how he gains access to the narcissist's soul. For some time, many of us have been in disagreement with the mental health professionals when it comes to MPD. Maybe not so much disagreement, but we've just been back and forth with no. Because they will tell us, and they have told us, that it is a mental health problem. It's a mental health disorder. And they're very clear and they're very confident when on that position, and they tell us that it is formed in childhood. And I have to agree with them. It is formed in their childhoods. And what they have said is that the child has to have, or the child has a traumatic experience, and that is where, or the disorder is formed after that. So when we consider trauma for a child, it's really anything that they cannot process. And so it could be like a single event, it could be a circumstance, or it could be a series of events that they face, but it is traumatic to this child. Whatever happened leaves that child exposed. It leaves that child uncovered. And this is where legal access for the enemy is gained to take place at that point. An example, we have pedophiles, and they come in, molest, rape, sodomize. Legal access is gained. Any type of sexual contact, sexual activity creates a doorway, a portal for that access for the enemy to be granted to the child. And so at this point, certain things begin to happen in the life of the child. I'm going to go with one thought, and then as I continue to explore this, I'll pick up on more possibilities, and we can continue the conversation. But the very first thing that I want to talk about, and one way that parents look out for this, or just be mindful, is that how do you know that the child has encountered, or that legal access to a demon, because it's a demon that uses the child as a host. So how do you know then that a demon has taken residence in your child? And here's the thing. For some kids, they start to talk about imaginary friends. These friends appear incredibly real to some of them. It's almost like they can really see their friends. They look at them, they point to them. They even want a setting at the table for their friends. They ask for extra snacks for their friends. When they're having tea parties, they want an extra cup and saucer for their friend. This person that this child is calling their friend, who has a name, is very, very real to this child. Nobody else can see them, but it is very real to the children. Now, I'm not like big on movies, so I'm not really able to recall movie names unless I've watched it several times. But I'm sure that if you think about it, you'll recall watching a movie where a child starts off having an imaginary friend, and it ends up that they start being tortured by that imaginary friend. Started off all nice and sweet. Here's the thing. The devil grooms his minions to act the way that he wants them to. Just like the devil himself can transform into an angel of light, so do these minions transform into an angel of light. So they come and they befriend these children while they are yet angels of light. Because if they showed up as the ugly and the horrendous creatures that they are, that would sound an alarm to the child. So it has to be something that they are able to say, oh, okay, this is my friend. I'm not threatened, and it's okay. I'm safe. And they're able to build a bond. And so what happens is, over time, because it's a friendship, and those take time, their attitude starts to change. They may begin to talk back to their parents. They may begin to, be mean to their siblings. They can even become mean to pets. their behaviors change. And over time, you sometimes find that their very appearance begins to change. Think back to some of the movies that you've watched. And what happens? There's always some truth in these things. The children are convinced that their friends are real. What we know is that this is evil. What happens here is that these friends begin to groom the child right there at an early age on how to act. It speaks to them. It tells them what to do. It tells them what to say. The whole narcissistic cycle begins to take place right then and there, the abuse cycle. 1 Peter verse 5 and 8 says, "Be alert and of sober mind. Your enemy, the devil, prowls like a roaring lion looking for someone to devour." Who else would be perfect, would be an easy target? How many times have we had the conversation that narcissists are lazy, that they like easy targets? They don't want to put in the effort to go over what is hard, what is difficult. And if narcissists want to be seen as gods, who else is going to worship faster than a child? Who else is going to be easier to indoctrinate than a child? Who else is it going to be easier to mold into the evil that they want, so that their pattern of abuse can be instilled and duplicated in other lives, but through a child? They say hurt people, but Tanya did a video just the other day that said it's evil people who hurt people. This is evil, hurting the very soul of a child. When we consider the soul, let's stay here for a minute. When we consider the soul, mind, body, your mind, your emotions, and your will, we know the narcissist is a soul hunter, and so they will access the mind. This is why I always tell you that in your journey of recovery, it is important to fight with your mind. Knowledge is power. Seek God for knowledge, but also seek knowledge from professionals so that they can help you process what you have been through. They will access the mind of that child. This child is still formulating thoughts. They are still trying to see who they are. They don't even know this yet. They also, once it has access to the mind of that child, it is easy to get to the emotions of the child, telling the child how to think, how to feel. It begins, or this entity that is within them begins to dictate emotions to the child: happiness, joy, sadness, rejection, abandonment, the devaluation. You're not good enough for anybody else. Nobody wants you. I'm the only one who wants you. You're lucky that I'm here. Otherwise, you would have nobody else. How do you think these narcissists have been able to be so skillful at breaking hearts? But not just breaking hearts. Why does narcissistic pain or the narcissistic injury, or when I say injury, what I mean is that breakup, why does that breakup crush not your heart but your soul? Because that's what they've been after. But this entity that is within this child, when the devil has gained access through whatever traumatic event the child experienced that left them uncovered and they were able to slide their raggedy tail into, it attacks the mind, which then seeps into their emotions. And because this is a child, it is now left defenseless to govern its own will. And so this is where the work of the enemy really begins to take root. And he, it's this spirit, in the beginning, like, when I was saying to you that he transforms himself into something that the child can relate to, he mirrors the child, and love bombs the child, indoctrinates the child, just like they would groom adult partners. And then goes right into the devaluation and the discard. And the discard is essential. At some point, that child will experience a discard, because as if the initial entry point, whatever that pain was, as if that wasn't enough, there has to be an additional discard so that that feeling of rejection can be settled, so that it can be heightened, and it can be outstanding pain. And I know that sounds real crazy, but this is what the enemy wants. He wants that spirit of rejection that the child experiences, which was more than likely what opened the original portal. Because speaking now as somebody who was sexually assaulted as a child, rejection was the number one thing that I felt. The spirit of rejection opens a portal for this enemy to come into the life of that child. Now, I praise God, I didn't become a narcissist, but the depression and a plethora of other feelings, I experienced them. And, as we begin to go into this series, because I think this is what it's going to end up as, we'll talk about more of this, but that feeling of, or that spirit of rejection brings self-loathing, it brings fear, and this demon takes its residence in the child. But it doesn't just take residence by itself. We talk all the time about how demons work in tandem with one another. And so it brings in a demon of lust, a demon of fear, and the main one, a demon of rebellion. And what happens is these demons in tandem within the host, within a child, run this child down. They bully this child. And so this is where the child gives up their true self, because they don't have what it takes to fight. They don't know how to fight. And because they are not covered, they are left completely exposed for the work of the enemy to really begin. They give up their true self. And here's the thing. It's important to know that demons live in hierarchy, and there are different levels of strength and of power. Consider Adolf Hitler, the level of rebellion that was in him. Consider your neighborhood bully, the local narcissists that you know. Their level of rebellion doesn't quite match Hitler, but it's the same. There are different levels of bullying, and I have a video that is going to that I'm uploading tomorrow that is going to go into the different types of levels within the demonic world and just talk about that a little bit. So this video can make sense, and then I think it will also shed light into narcissists, psychopaths, and sociopaths, and just how demonic, or the different rankings that they sit on within that realm. I want to take a moment now to mention one character. I'm going to mention him briefly and we'll discuss him further, but I want to talk about Nimrod. Nimrod was a giant, and he's also like Goliath was also part of that same bloodline. But Nimrod, like Goliath, was a monster, violent, ugly, and a violent killer. And he was responsible for the building of the Tower of Babel, which was the the Tower of Confusion, or the City of Confusion. And he would force people to ascribe their happiness to him. But you know why I'm mentioning Nimrod is because the spirit of rebellion rested heavily on him. That spirit of rebellion hates God, and it hates and works against the spirit and the will of God. This is the same spirit, rebellion, that people like Hitler have, that dwells in narcissists. The spirit of rebellion is the main spirit of rejection, the very same spirit that Nimrod operates from. So for today, I'm going to stop here. But I hope that this conversation, I hope we can actually spark a conversation and really get into the nitty-gritty of what is going on as it pertains to how this is truly formed, how these minions work, and where do we go from here? It does not absolve the narcissist of what they have done. They are wrong. They have chosen to harden their hearts, and they are cemented in their position. So although we've talked about their childhood experience, they still make that choice to repeat history and just continue to change out their targets over and over and over and over again. They are who they are. So I want to thank you so much for your time. I hope that you continue to take care of yourself, and God bless you.